Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Fran Heathcote, President of PCS. I'm really pleased to welcome you to this Eve of Strike Facebook Live event. Really pleased that joining me tonight will be not just Mark Slotker, our General Secretary, but also Donna Wright and Beth Wagg from two of the groups that are taking the first wave of targeted action, and we'll be hearing from them in a minute about exactly what that means and what that entails for them. So really pleased about that. In terms of opening remarks, clearly an awful lot going on right now and an awful lot that you can be doing to support the people who are taking what is very much the first wave of action in our campaign. Really pleased as well to welcome Richard, our interpreter. Richard is a stalwart of PCS Facebook Lives and is there to make sure that the event is as accessible as possible, and we're always really grateful that he can join us and provide such a valuable role. So okay, our first speaker tonight, and the way we'll do this is that we will hear from Donna from DFT, from Beth from EFRA, and then from Mark, our General Secretary, and then we'll make sure there's plenty of opportunity for you to raise any questions, make any comments that you've got. In the usual way, if you have questions and comments to raise, don't send them through to me directly because I won't see them. Make sure that you send them to our admins who will be posting in the chat throughout the meeting which admins to send them to, and we will make sure that we get through as many of those. We've also got people monitoring the chat on Facebook Live, so we can pick up any questions and comments from there as well. Okay, so let's get started. Really delighted that joining us tonight is Donna Wright. Donna's the branch chair of DFT Scotland and Northern Ireland branch, and they're taking strike action starting tomorrow. So Donna's one of the strikers. We're really glad that you could join us tonight. Donna, over to you.
Thanks, Fran. Well, I work as a driving examiner for the Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency. I'm based in Musselburgh Driving Test Centre, and I voted for and will be striking tomorrow. In fact, I'll be striking from tomorrow till the 18th of December, and that will be with my colleagues who are driving examiners, local driving test managers, and also the ADI enforcement examiners. I see many colleagues struggling just now with the cost of living rises, as we've all seen. We have seen an increase in fuel getting to work. There are people who are struggling with other living costs, the increased cost of childcare, the increased cost to heat our homes and to put food on the table for our families, decent food on the table for our families. And there are the single parent families and the one worker households and households where there are additional needs. Now they're hit the hardest. So all of our colleagues, I mean, many of us know people who are struggling badly, but I know for sure that my colleagues haven't seen a decent pay rise in a really long time. In fact, one of my colleagues worked out. Now, we started in the same year, 2003, and she worked out our salary was just over £10 per hour when we started. Now, working that out almost 20 years on, and we get just over £13 per hour. So over a span of about 20 years, that's not very much. We never thought when we started work that we would see pay freezes and continued trickled small non-consolidated rises, obviously affecting our pensions. We never thought that would last as long as it has done. And for the government to praise us during COVID for keeping the country running, and then to offer a paltry 2% increase when inflation's running at over 11%. I mean, it's just not going anywhere. And I think most people I've spoken to, colleagues, indeed everybody's unhappy. And we're angry, driving examiners and my colleagues are angry, and we're going to show that in a visible presence by striking. Tomorrow I'll be in Musselburgh Driving Test Centre, but we have a list of driving test centres throughout the country, which I would like my PCS family to come along and support if they're in the areas, please. We would really value that. Most of my colleagues are just incensed that the government relies on the goodwill of civil servants, and if it's going to be done to somebody, it's done to civil servants first. So please support us. That's all I can ask you to do, and thanks for listening.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Donna, and thanks so much for joining us. I think the thing that really rung out from everything you were saying there is your issues are just like everybody else's. Your members are going to be taking this first wave of action. And the thing that's really important is for those members to feel that they have the full support of, as you put it, the PCS family. So if people can get along to any of the picket lines, any of the areas that are taking action, that will become really important. Lots and lots of publicity right now. Either also, I know some of it being posted in the chat, but also if you visit the website, if you visit any of the PCS social media, you'll be able to see the areas where we're taking action and where we're asking members to go along and support. And don't underestimate how much that means to people taking action to have that support of colleagues across PCS. So in that vein, we have a solidarity shout out from Sarah Enza, solidarity from PCS at the IOPC, all around England and Wales. So thank you very much for that, Sarah. And obviously, you know, your solidarity, everybody's, will be really important. Okay, so really pleased again to welcome our next speaker. Beth Wagg is the EFRA Group President, and the Rural Payments Agency are one of the areas that will be taking action from tomorrow morning. So over to you, Beth.
Thanks, Fran, and thanks, Donna, for what you said before. I think I could say a lot of the same stuff, but I think it's better hearing it from people like Donna. As Fran said, I'm here to speak on behalf of the strikers from the Customer Service Centre for RPA. They're still, as a group, they've got some great spirit in them, but they're still not quite at the point of coming and speaking in front of people, because they know they're the first. And I think it's amazing that they are, and any shows of solidarity. You know, we're going to have 3 picket lines in Workington, sorry, 2 picket lines in Workington and Newcastle. Both offices are pretty out of the way, so any messages of support people can get through social media or anything, we can get to them. The Rural Payments Agency it's a small part of DEFRA, which is a small government department, but we do a lot of work, mainly deal with farm subsidies and grants and things like that for the rural communities. And so a small agency of about 2,500 people administers over £2 billion a year. So yeah, we're small, but that's money that goes into our rural communities, to our farmers, and everyone wants to be providing the best service that they can for these people. But the amount of people we're seeing leaving, the amount of colleagues we're seeing leaving, because that's the only way that they can get a pay rise. They say they don't see staying within the agency or staying within the civil service as getting a pay rise. They either need to go to another government department and get a promotion, or find a job elsewhere that pays more. So they're at a point where the only way that they can show how they feel any more than they have done through staff surveys, all of the usual stuff, is by taking strike action. None of them want to do that. They want to be providing the service, especially for farmers at this time of the year. You know, they're one of the industries that's suffered over the past few years through Brexit, weather, things like that. So they want to be in the office helping out, doing what they should be doing from day to day. Instead, they have to take strike action. Most of our offices aren't in, I don't know what the right word is, but we're out of the way with less developed areas. I mean, our local MP, if anyone remembers, is the one that says anyone who'll get vouchers for food will trade them for drugs. That's our MP's view of our town. So we need to be taking this action, and they need to be taking this action. I unfortunately won't be able to. I'll be visiting their picket line every day as I come into work. But yeah, I think it's the same as Donna. Those shows of solidarity, because if these members get those, when the next people go out on strike, they'll be showing those signs of solidarity 10 times over because they've done it already, and they'll know what those members are going through. So I'll leave it there and let Mark or Fran or whoever come in and say their bit.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Beth. And again, you know, for those relatively small group of workers, that solidarity will be really important. And we've got loads of solidarity shout outs now. So Martin Cavanagh sends solidarity on behalf of the DWP group, solidarity from the Office of National Statistics, solidarity from PCS DWP North East and Mid Wales branch, from CM Pension Centre Louise Smith, solidarity from DWP County Durham branch and DFE Darlington, solidarity from North Western Cumbria EFRA group, Michael Wright, solidarity and support from the Defence Sector group, Chris Dando, from PCS DWP Glasgow branch, Callum Walker, and from DWP Wirral branch, and that's Andy Downey. So the other thing that I think Beth said that I think is important is if you can't physically get to one of those picket lines, or there's not one near you, and they're not everywhere, so that's quite likely, a message of support just on behalf of either from yourself or from your branch, again, will be really important, and we can make sure that those are all passed on and they reach the people taking the action. But those simple sort of solidarity messages are really, really important at a time like this. So thank you very much to both Donna and to Beth for taking the time to talk us through that a little bit. I'm going to hand over to Mark now. Mark's going to give us a bit of an update on where we are with everything, and then we'll make sure we've got plenty of time for questions and comments. So over to you, Mark.
Well, thanks very much, Fran, and we're really grateful for everybody who's joining us tonight. And what a great way to start. It's fantastic to hear from both Donna and Beth, because Donna's going on strike. Beth is organising 100 or so members in the RPA who will be going on strike. And the 1,700 people who are kicking off this action are taking action, yes, on behalf of themselves and their families, but they're taking it on behalf of every other PCS member and their family, because what these brave people are doing tomorrow is starting, and I stress the word starting, the biggest program of industrial action there will ever have been in the civil service at a time where our members need more pay desperately. They need job security and they need pensions justice from a government that's at the moment refusing to give it, and we're determined to force them to see sense. So this action is really, really essential, and I'm sure everybody will join me and you, Fran, in wishing every one of our brave strikers all the very best for the action that kicks off tomorrow. All of the brilliant reps who've organised this in the workplaces, some of them small, and some of them a bit larger, who've been working flat out. And also everybody in the union who has been working now for months to get us to this position where we've achieved the biggest strike vote in the union's history. And we are determined to have a campaign, not of protesting, which we've done in the past and not won, but a campaign that can actually force the government to do the right thing. And I want to really start by reminding us, what are we after? We're after a 10% pay rise for everybody. We're after a job security agreement that sees nobody forced to lose their job. We're after a guarantee they won't cut your terms and conditions by a 30% cut of your redundancy terms. And we want them to make you pay the correct amount for your pension and give you back what they've stolen from you. Those are not asking for the earth, they're asking for justice and the ability for people to keep their heads above water in an unprecedented financial crisis. The government's response, and I think we've got to keep stressing this, is to treat us worse than any other group of workers in the economy, either public or private sector. We have the lowest pay offer of anywhere in the public sector. I've been to a TUC meeting today. The firefighters were offered 2%, same as what we were told we were getting. They rejected it. They increased their offer to 5%. Firefighters voted with a 79% majority to reject 5%, and they're now balloting for a strike. So what we can see is everyone's being treated badly, but we are being treated worse than anyone else. And although many people may not read the Financial Times, in the Financial Times today, one of the leading economic writers in this country has basically said the government have got 3 reasons for saying no to us and everyone else. One is to give us a pay rise causes inflation. Secondly, it is that the public sector is fairly well paid. And thirdly, they cannot afford it. This writer then answers this in the FT today. The government is wrong on all counts. They can afford the pay rises. The pay rises will not cause a spiral in inflation, and the public sector is not well paid and actually historically is worse off in real terms than at any time in history, and certainly for many people 15 to 20% worse off over the last decade. So the government is in hiding. They put up ministers who don't answer the questions, tell everybody that they can't afford it, and then they say that we're asking for too much. And Rishi Sunak has phrased this, that this is militant union bosses against the working men and women of this country. Well, what Donna and Beth have reminded everybody, Fran, as well as yourself, is that we are speaking up for the working women and men in the public service and their families, not Rishi Sunak. You are not going on strike because of militant union bosses. You're going on strike because you voted with the biggest vote in the union's history because the government is ignoring us. So this campaign is critical, and it's one that we are absolutely determined to win. So I do hope if there's anyone on this call who can get to Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Dundee, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Musselburgh, Inverness, Kirkcaldy, Paisley or Workington, you won't regret going, because if you can get there, showing your solidarity with women and men who'll be starting the strike tomorrow will go down a storm. You can give personal solidarity on behalf of your work colleagues and take that back and take it to your own workplaces to tell people when it's their turn to come out on strike that you will have witnessed firsthand what your colleagues have had to say in the DVSA and in the RPA to kick it off. Clearly, particularly given the weather and given a lot of these are quite northerly locations for a lot of members, if we understand that lots of people can't get to these, but messages of support are really, really important. Sending social media messages, getting on social media, sending messages of support, pictures, all of it will help, because we want to make everybody realize that the strike that starts tomorrow are not local strikes. They are on behalf of all of us and as part of a trade union movement that is increasingly telling the government they're going to have to think again. And that's really what I then want to just focus on, Fran, is because we are determined that we can win, that we will win. If we stick together, we all come out when we're asked to come out, and if our colleagues in other unions and us work together. So we want to stress that what we're seeing tomorrow is DVSA and the RPA starting off critical action. I would say also about the DVSA and the RPA that it also bucks the nonsense we often read in the papers that people think of PCS and the civil service and they think of Sir Humphreys and mandarins in Whitehall. Yet what they're seeing tomorrow is we have customer service staff in Workington, in Carnarvon and in Newcastle, and we have driving examiners in Scotland and the north of England who are working men and women who are standing up for their rights to be treated properly. And it shows that our union represents a massive breadth of public sector delivery, and we're going to see more and more of that in recent weeks. Now, after we hopefully have a fantastic start to the action, people will know that next in line will be our colleagues in National Highways, and the action that they are taking, 6 of the days they'll be taking, will be coordinated with RMT workers on the railway to make common cause with other railway workers who are also standing up for fair pay. We then will see members in the DWP in Toxteth and some Liverpool job centres and in Doncaster and other close areas in South Yorkshire taking action because their offices face closure. Members are being told that they have to move or face redundancy. The public will be worse off and our members are making a really important stand. And then we will see our colleagues in the border force at 6 major airports and 1 port take action over Christmas. Now, all of this, we've said to the government, is the start, not the end. It will escalate in the new year, both within PCS and with other unions, unless the government just drop the evasion and the burying their heads in the sand and the occasional threat and actually recognise that they have to put money on the table because people need that money and they need it now. So what we want everybody to realise is this is very much the start. The strategy that we have here that members have voted for is not one that the government thinks, gosh, we got through that, we can just forget about it, that they will actually see a very effective start, and it will build and it will escalate. And we have made the point that there may be 3,000 members in the first few weeks taking action across 4 or 5 departments, but there are 100,000 members who are covered by the ballot. And we have already made preparations to reballot in 8 further areas in January, including HMRC and the VOA and some other organisations, so that this strike will grow. So we've been in touch with the Cabinet Office. Fran, ministers tell us that they are available to meet behind this door that apparently is always open. It's got nothing behind it, but they have confirmed up to and including today, no more money is available for nurses, for train workers, or for PCS members. That remains their position. So now we have to show them that the price of them refusing to deal with this crisis will be seeing their own valuable workforce show their value and importance by withdrawing their labour. The more people who go on strike, the more people who join in, the more pressure the government will be under. And one of the things we can see already from what we've done is the union is growing at a rate that it has not grown for years. I can tell you now that our membership is now approaching 191,000. In the Home Office alone, we have had 589 people join the union in the last 6 days. And those people are obviously joining, as are many other people in the RPA, we know, who joined in huge numbers across DFT and right throughout the union, because they want to be in a union that is beginning to fight back. So, Fran, I wanted to draw to a conclusion by saying that every driving examiner, every person in the RPA who strikes tomorrow is making a brave stand for themselves, for their families, their colleagues, and every other PCS member. And our job is to support them and then make sure the next wave, the support is equally massive and as, you know, as visible. And then when we get into the new year, we know that if the government still refuses to put money on the table, that escalation will not just see more PCS members being called out on targeted sustained action, but we will reach the point also where we will need to get all members out on strike to show the union's national strength. Today at the TUC, we had a meeting with dozens of other unions discussing precisely that in the new year. And I can report that in the education sector alone, there are over 500,000 teachers currently balloting for strike action, and their ballot result will be known by early to mid-January. So the escalation that the government will see will not just be more PCS members coming out on strike on a sustained basis and all of us together at some point early in 2023, but also with many, many other unions, whether that's postal, transport, paramedics, teachers, or anyone else who is currently balloting for industrial action. Now, the TUC agreed today, and I'll finish with this, by demanding an urgent meeting with the government, but also recognising that we have to prepare to deliver what not just we're delivering, but union after union is doing, and maximise our efforts to work together. So what we want everybody to feel by the end of this week is, whether you're in DVSA and RPA and have been on strike, is that you found that the solidarity, being out together, making a stand, is something that you are not just proud of, but do you think is the first step in achieving a victory. That for everybody in the second wave that's coming shortly, that people prepare now, get colleagues to join the union if they haven't joined PCS, and make it clear to management that this is going to be the strongest, best supported strike they've ever seen. And that for all the rest of us, apart from just providing solidarity, that we are preparing now for early in the new year for more targeted sustained action, and then for all of us coming out together with as many other unions, we hope, as possible. And the final thing, just to get across, Fran, is in the past, many people have said that when PCS has gone on strike, the government and the media have ignored us. I think the one thing we can say here is the media coverage that the union has had has been unprecedented. It's going right across the board, with local reps speaking to the media over the next few days, with us going on everything from Piers Morgan to Trevor Phillips to like the national news, just to make it clear that people cannot misrepresent what this action is about. We've written to the head of the armed services, and we know from press speculation that the army themselves are not happy at being asked to come in and cover for striking workers. So far from ignoring us this time, they are trying to make urgent last-ditch preparations to try to paper over the cracks. Well, the one thing that we know is you cannot have the army on the borders, driving ambulances, driving trains, teaching kids in school, answering the phones in Workington when the farmers are ringing up, and doing all of the work that we do. It's an impossible solution to this crisis. So the government's going to realise very early on they should stop the rhetoric and the saber rattling and threatening unions and bringing the army in where they can, and do the only thing that will bring this unprecedented amount of industrial action to a close. And that is put money on the table, which is what you and your family deserve. So full solidarity to our DVSA colleagues throughout the north and through Scotland, to our RPA colleagues in Workington, Carnarvon and Newcastle, to our next wave of colleagues in highways, DWP and in the border force, and to everyone else. We deserve better, we're going to fight for better, and we believe we can win better. Solidarity to everyone.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark, and thank you for taking us through all of that. Okay, lots of messages of solidarity. I'll battle through as many as I can, and then we'll start the questions and comments. So, solidarity from DEFRA South West and South West Branch, Ed Hubbard. Solidarity for striking members from the British Council branch. We really appreciated messages of support and others joining us on picket lines and at our rallies during our strike action in March and June. As Fran said, it is important to support strikers and for them to feel that they are not alone. And that's from Esther Hay. Solidarity from reps at RPA Carlisle to our DEFRA colleagues down the Cumbrian coast in Workington and at Carnarvon and Newcastle, or also to our colleagues in DVSA, and that's from David Niven. Paulette Romain, who's the London and South East Regional Chair, says huge respect and solidarity to all our members taking action from tomorrow. We hope to be joining you in the new year. Solidarity from DWP North Merseyside branch, Mo Brazier. Solidarity to all of our members taking action from DWP Gloucester, and that's from Alison Fisher. Solidarity from Dundee Driving Test Centre, Karen Bell. Solidarity from John Jameson from Registers of Scotland branch, who's also an NEC member. Solidarity from HMRC Benton Park View, MMOJ Associated Officers branch, and from Northern Ireland PCS branches, and that's from Kathy Darkin. So as you can see, a huge amount of solidarity from a wide range of areas there, which is all very welcome, and I would urge you to keep sending those messages, because as I say, they do mean a lot. But there are obviously some questions and comments being raised, and Mark, it might be helpful if we take some of these individually, because I think they'll probably require a bit of a detailed answer. So the first question is from Dylan Wilson, who says, questions have been raised on official PCS social media last night regarding members being asked to redeploy to cover striking colleagues if they were trained in that area of work, suggesting that it would be a reasonable management request. What would your comment be there? Can we unmute Mark, please? That's it. Nope. He's still on mute.
Right. So the first thing to say here is whilst I will talk in general, it's really important that wherever these questions arise, in the first instance, people talk to their local rep or full-time official for the area covered, because clearly different things apply in different parts of the organisation. The first thing to say in general, Fran, is that apart from opposing the military coming in, we've also as an NEC taken steps to look at those members in the civil service in surge teams to see now whether or not, as part of our industrial action mandate, whether we need a specific further ballot to try to ensure that people who will be drafted in as surge teams can be asked to take part in industrial action at the relevant time. It is clear that it's targeted action, and the reason that we're taking targeted action is because we're trying to have a sustained effect without people losing money that forces the employer to have a whole series of difficulties providing services or having to make contingencies that leaves it short elsewhere. The aim of these actions is that in themselves, not any one is an immediate knockout blow, but on a cumulative basis, they build enough pressure and disruption so that the employer is forced to come back to the negotiating table. And the only alternative to us to that is to either bring out far more people out on strike. And if that's everyone, it means obviously that's without financial support, which we know many members have said they can't do, or to look at where that targeted action is taken and how it can cause the most disruption. So it will be the case in some areas that people will be asked, where it's within grade and within contract, to cover and be removed of other jobs. If management have the ability to do that, and people should always consult their rep, then obviously here what that means is that there's disruption somewhere else in the pipeline. We are considering, depending how this pans out, saying to the employers in some areas that our response to do that will be to call more members out on strike and to serve more notice, to try to tell them that it will just cause more disruption in the short and medium term. But for the immediacy of where we are, there will be some people who will be asked to do something that the employer has the legal and contractual right for them to do. And that might mean some people are in that position. Our response to that, however, will not just be to let that lie. It will be to say, right, well, if that's their response here, what action can we now call that is actually going to cause them even more disruption down the way? But I think the thing we have to remember is that we don't think that this dispute is going to be won or lost in a period of 1 week or 2 weeks. Our ballot mandate lasts for 6 months. And the important thing is that the government see we can cause disruption over a 6-month period at different levels and at different rates, including at times asking everyone to come out and different groups of workers to come out. So, you know, it's a sort of bit of a moment where that causes some employers a problem. Some members will find that difficult, but it's the strategy we have at the moment, because the alternative are not ones that we think can be delivered at this point, given members' concern about losing too much money. So that's a general answer to that. But I just want to say that we know in some areas where the employers are considering doing that, they know that the threat of then calling those groups of workers out will put them off. So it's going to be a little bit of cat and mouse. But when in doubt, please consult the union. And if where you are, you think that a response to that would be a further group of workers being told we should serve notice on them to bring them out, we should know that, and we will be prepared to do that. Because the point here is not that the employer thinks they can get around all of this by moving some people around. It's actually they realise that's going to make it worse for them in the longer term.
Okay, thank you. In a similar vein, it might be worth just picking this up specifically. I think there've been quite a few messages from angry border force members who have been told that if their manager asks them to cover the strike, that they should do so, even if it means crossing a picket line. So Andrew Mabb says he's really angry about the border force strike going to be ineffective, and why are PCS members who are border force officers being forced to cross the picket line while they see their colleagues taking action? So I think you've partially answered that, but it might be worth just picking up on that specific.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the first thing to say is that I think what we all know is the action won't be ineffective. And in fact, we've only got to look at what is being said, whether that's from aviation companies talking about cancelling flights, whether it's Suella Braverman urging people not to fly, or it's the government training the army. So we know already it's had an effect, and it's actually been one of the most talked about actions that has been called. But I do recognise that the question that we're being asked, and I think, to just be honest, we only had 2 alternatives. One was to ask everybody to come out on strike. And obviously then you get into the cost of that in terms of paying strike pay would have been one that means that the union would have then had to consider what further action could be called in successive months. So there's always a dilemma that the more people who get out on strike in a targeted sustained area, that is the more money that costs, and we want to be able to spread this over a 6-month period. But there's also the fact that we want room to escalate. And one of the things that we have made it absolutely crystal clear is if the effect of the border force strike is to cause some disruption, but the conclusion we reach is if we did that again, we could cause even more disruption, then we may well build that into our plans in the weeks and months ahead. But what we don't want to do is to do everything in one go up front essentially giving us less capacity to call action around the other 124 employers that we're also making plans for, Fran. I think the question also does underpin the importance of why the NEC is doing the levy, because whilst we as a union essentially have put in extra money from union headquarters, from our sort of, from our accounts to start us off with £4 million, we want to raise money precisely so that we can pay and sustain more action over this 6-month period. And again, if it comes back to this is the route we have to go down, then that is a route that we would consider going down. But that's where we are at this particular point. What I wouldn't just accept though up front is if just because in this case, I've no doubt the questioner has asked the rep and the rep has sought advice, but generally speaking, people shouldn't read from this that any manager can just tell anyone to do anything and you have to do it. These always have to pass the test of it being a reasonable instruction based on people's individual contracts, job descriptions and employment. And it's not the same everywhere. So people should always seek advice. But Fran, perhaps it is a good point to remind everyone else that even when we're not on strike, or even if our turn hasn't yet come, there is a general message we should give that nobody really should be offering any goodwill, going above and beyond, or doing anything that is helping the employer out at this particular point. And therefore, if people are asked to do anything, have a think about whether or not that's something you should do and whether or not we're just helping the employer at a time when we want to make it as difficult for them as possible. So I know that's a difficult answer, and I know some of the members concerned feel very strongly, but I hope they understand that the reps in the Home Office and the National Committee did consider this carefully and felt that this start is a very effective start, but the employer needs to see that it can escalate much more, and that is what we'll do if we need to.
Okay, thank you. Got a quick question for Beth. Beth, we've got Esther Hay saying, where's the picket line in Workington? I'm going to be on leave there next week and obviously we'd be keen to show support. I don't know if Beth, if you want to answer that just quickly.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Without going into too much detail, if I don't know your knowledge of Workington, Esther, but if you know where McDonald's is, if you head towards the station, turn left, head down there, you'll see a load of yellow flags and placards. And if you're about next week, we might have a visitor as well next week.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping to join you, Beth, on Tuesday morning as well. I think, Esther, if you want an exact postal address, email the group secretary, who is Mark Payton, and his email address I think has been put in the chat. It's just markp@pcs.org.uk, and he will be able to give you exact details. But I think if you get as far as McDonald's and look for the yellow flags, that sounds like a fairly good steer to me. Okay, so Logan Holmes says, what are the government doing about the DVSA strikes, in terms of whether they're trying to put in place contingency? I suppose the question is. I don't know if we've really got an answer on that. I don't know if anybody on the call, either Donna or Mark, has the information about what the government are doing about the DVSA strikes. I think we'll find out very soon, won't we? But Donna, I don't know if there's anything you want to pick up there. No. Okay. I think
Donna's had to leave.
Oh, has she? Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay. We have a question, or more of a comment actually, from another Donna, who says the government is keen to invest in consultants over all departments who are paid astronomical sums of money to tell us how to do our job better, faster and with less resources. It's questionable in operation service delivery how this can possibly be more cost effective than keeping workers happy, contented and productive. And Donna, I don't think you'll get any disagreement from us on that. I think that those are really good points. There's a solidarity message here from Sue Sharples, who says, solidarity, power to the people, let's do this, Workington RPA CSC. See you all on the picket line tomorrow, get your thermals on. And my knowledge of Workington is that you will definitely need your thermals tomorrow if you are joining that picket line. Okay, solidarity from Revenue Customs Stratford branch, that's from Mark Benjamin, and from Home Office Merseyside branch, and that's from Lindsay Mellier. Solidarity from South Shields Job Centre, Diana Richardson, and from DWP City of Sunderland branch from Marie McDonough. There is a question from Matthew Meehan, who I know is a DWP rep. Matthew, I think to get a detailed response on this, you probably need to email the group president, which is Martin Kavanagh, and Martin will be able to look into this for you. But what Matthew says is that DWP management is sending out guidance that states that staff striking for more than 1 week cannot take annual leave from the following week. Is this true? I think it might be helpful if we get that to Martin to pick up and we can clarify exactly what it is that they're saying. So maybe you can forward the message to Martin and Martin can take that up on your behalf. So thanks for that, Matthew, and solidarity to your members who I know will be taking action very soon. So Logan Holmes again says, will the army be doing driving tests? I don't know if that requires an answer. I don't know if any of us on this call can answer that, but I mean, well, I think the idea of that is fairly unlikely, isn't it? So Carol Sim Feltham says, are surge teams able to say that they won't cross the picket line? And in a similar vein, Louise Smith says, can any member refuse to cross the picket line? I don't know if, Mark, you want to just pick those up. You know, I know you can only really give a general answer on those, but it might be worth Mark just commenting on those.
Yeah, and just on that DVSA question, can I just pick up in Donna's absence?
Yeah.
We know that what the DVSA were planning was to write out to retired driving examiners to try and get people in to try and do extra work. And again, just like the questions that have come up in the border force, what it shows is that they know that the action we're taking is going to have an effect. And I just think it is just worth us stressing here that the strategy we're embarking upon here is not perfect for all people at all times, but it is going to cause the employer loads of difficulties. And that is meant to escalate and accumulate. And at various points, we will ask everybody to be coming out on strike at the same time. So I hope that people see this is meant to build. But in a part, what that recognises is that we didn't feel, from what members have told us beforehand, that we were in a position to do what, say, the RMT and the postal workers are doing, which is to continually call everybody out on strike because members were very worried about the cost. So we're trying to have a strategy here that really hurts the employer and means that when we're making sacrifices, it has a real big effect and we continue to create disruption. But I do also want to say that all of this is constantly to be reviewed. And I do want to say again to our border force colleagues that if what comes out of the strike over Christmas, and it's clearly going to have a very big effect, is that when we need to take further action there, we need to look at, should it be done differently? And can that be done within the overall parameter of the dispute? We will, of course, want to do that. So I just think it is important to stress that. If you're in a surge team, again, I'm going to urge the people asking the questions to make sure they individually raise it with their reps. Look, obviously, from what I would like to sit here and say is that the oldest trade union principle is no one crosses a picket line. And picket lines are there to try to stop people going into work, and you try to encourage people not to go. We also know we have the most restrictive union laws of any country in Europe. It's incredibly difficult to get a lawful dispute. And therefore, if people didn't cross the picket line, then they're almost certainly that person would be asked questions by their management. And that potentially could mean that could have serious consequences. Now, like all things, you know, if you are in an office where 100 people in one place didn't cross a picket line, it's a lot harder for management than if you're in an office with one. Our general advice is you are not protected by law if you decided to take action that has not been notified under very strict legal rules. So people should definitely go and talk to their rep, but that is why because the law is stacked against us, we're trying to run a campaign here where every time that's what they resort to, that we ask ourselves, is there a means by which we can reciprocate and escalate by saying, right, well, if that's what you're going to do, we're now going to call those group of members in that office out on strike next. So this is going to be a little bit of cat and mouse, but I would want people to be aware that if people did not cross a picket line and they were not notified as being on strike, then there may well be consequences for those, and they would need to make sure that they talk to the union in advance, Fran, and certainly afterwards. So, you know, if this was 10 years ago, that's not what we'd be saying. 10 or 15 years ago, there would be no legal comeback. It's a bit different now, and I think that's what we're trying to work within. Can I just say, though, on the surge members, I just want to reiterate the point that there are people working in surge teams who are set up, obviously, to go in when there is a particular problem, and to help with contingency planning. We are looking at the possibility of those surge members either being covered in an HMRC reballot, or whether we need a specific ballot that would allow us to have the authority to bring those members out on strike. So again, this is the first wave. We'll see exactly what issues come our way, and we will make sure that as we review it, if there's anything we can do more effectively, we will in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, thank you. I've got a message of solidarity from Nicola Rice from Belfast to all strikers. And I did read out a message of solidarity from Northern Ireland PCS branches earlier, and that was from Cathy Darkin, but I'm not sure she heard it, so I'm reading it out again because she has asked me to. Okay, I spent a bit of time in Northern Ireland a couple of weeks ago, and they are really concerned in relation to the border force work being covered potentially by the armed forces in uniform, and what that message that will send in a situation that's as volatile as the one in Northern Ireland. And I think, you know, the messages of solidarity from the members in Northern Ireland and in Belfast are really welcome, really well received. And I would want to just send a message to you that we are very painfully aware of the situation and the possible implications of that, and we will work with you as much as we can in terms of all of that. Mark, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that at this stage. I mean, it's probably a general point, but I just think it bears sort of mention because of the strength of feeling that was expressed when I was there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, just to say that this issue, obviously at the moment, the one place that the military are clearly being trained is to cover the action that's been called in the border force at the airports. And obviously that does not yet include Northern Ireland. But we are very conscious of that point. And certainly in recent days, arising out of not just media interviews, but contacts with politicians, this issue has arisen in terms of security issues for members in Northern Ireland, but also in Cardiff Airport. The Cardiff Airport is owned by the Welsh Government, and it's a Welsh Labour government, even though the staff on strike are employed by Westminster. And again, we have urged the Welsh Government to not have or allow the military in to cover the work of strikers. And their response to that has been to publicly call on the government to negotiate with us to find a settlement to the dispute. So we are making this point, but to be very clear for our members in Northern Ireland, Fran, if and when it comes to the action being called there, we will absolutely be making the point that this is not just a matter then of the government trying to say they're covering the work. This is a matter that would go much, much further and literally could mean people's health and safety and well-being being put at risk. And that is a point that we will continue to make, both behind the scenes, but also publicly at every opportunity. And why it's inappropriate. And just going to say, the slogan we put out last week is what we need here is money on the table, not soldiers in airports. And I do think that does quietly sum up. This is not the answer to any problem. It would certainly make a lot of things worse, but it isn't going to resolve the dispute. And that's what they need to realise pretty quickly. Only money on the table is going to do that.
Okay, thank you. A couple of solidarity messages from Jarrow Job Centre, Derek Richardson, and from PCS Revenue and Customs Merseyside, fully behind the strikes and hoping that HMRC can win the reballot and join the fight soon. That's from Peter Smullen. So thank you very much for that, Peter. Okay, there's a couple of comments, Mark, that you might want to come back to, and I think you have covered this point, but it's clearly maybe needs a little bit of clarity, although I think people need to recognise that Mark can only really speak more generally. But Charlotte Gatty says, when you say that there are consequences, surely a PCS member cannot be forced to cross a picket line. And then somebody else asks, can members who refuse to cross the picket line then be paid by PCS? So Mark, you might want to just clarify that a little bit.
Yeah, I just to say that obviously this meeting is in a public forum.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that everything we're saying and doing at the moment is being scrutinized in enormous detail. Right? There has been numerous challenges to the ballot itself. There's been all sorts of maneuvers being run by employers. So I hope that what people will understand is anything I was to say here that clearly contradicts the law would immediately be used against the union and individuals. So what I'm really stressing to the person asking that question is to raise this with us in a means that is not necessarily public, so that we can be very clear about what people can and can't do and what help and support the union will give. You can start that with your local rep, but feel free, if you can send us an email for us to get a full-time officer to come and speak to you. You know, it's clear that nobody can be forced to do anything. And you know, we still live allegedly in a free country. If there's a picket line in people's workplaces, nobody can make people go in. And the union will obviously seek to support any members in those positions. But the way the law is constructed is people would not have the legal protection that everyone has who has been notified under legal, sort of very clear legal strictures of who's on strike. So everyone who's been called out on strike has to be notified to the employer essentially 14 days in advance. Yeah. Someone not crossing a picket line, we won't have been able to do that. So it doesn't mean that anybody won't be supporting anyone or trying to help anybody. I'm just trying to point out there is very clear legal situation here. But there are still effective things that people can be trying to think about doing. So I'm suggesting people contact us out with the meeting itself, and depending where people are and what workplace it is, we'll see whether or not there's anything else that can be done.
Okay, thank you. I mentioned Matthew Meehan before, who is a rep in the DWP. Just to be clear, Matthew is a branch official at the DWP Doncaster branch, and they will be taking action alongside members in parts of the DWP in Liverpool in the coming weeks. And there is a question in that says, sorry, I joined a bit late. Is there any plan for job centres to go on strike? And obviously, I think that means job centres more widely. Just to say to that person, I'm sorry, I don't have a name. There is a Facebook Live event specifically for DWP members on Thursday, when we'll be able to discuss that in a lot more detail. But I don't know if, Mark, if you want to say anything in terms of that, just more generally about the job centres right now.
Yeah, so first of all, as we've said, there will be members in job centres in Toxteth and in the DWP in Doncaster and related parts, Mexborough as well, I think, who'll be out on strike because their offices deemed for closure, who are coming out as part of this national campaign. All members in DWP will be asked to go on strike at some point in this campaign, along with everyone else in the union. And your reps in the DWP are constantly considering whether or not there's further targeted action that could be taken, that could be effective in the DWP itself. So, you know, every PCS member will be asked to come out and strike. Rest assured of that. It's about maximising its effect. This is just the start. It'd be good to come onto the DWP call next week. But what I probably wanted to stress here, Fran, is we're very conscious, and it's very good in a way, that lots of people have contacted the union, almost like saying, I want to be on strike. And of course, that's really a fantastic starting point. What we all want is to go on strike and to win. And I think that the thing that we are constantly trying to grapple with here is we've got a fantastic vote. We had a particular strategy to put the maximum pressure on by not just having one-day strikes, but ensuring that when everybody does come out, it really has an impact. And all of that is still are going to happen early in the new year, and we'll be making lots of announcements about that sort of stuff before and just after Christmas, Fran. So I want to give people to be rest assured this ballot lasts for 6 months, this mandate. We want the government to realise it's going to escalate, and more people will get involved, and that's going to involve the DWP as much as anywhere else.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. Okay, well, look, we said this would run for an hour. It's 18:56. I want to say a thank you to Beth and to Donna, both of whom have had to leave for other reasons, but it's really good that they've been able to join tonight and that you've been able to hear from them in terms of expressing your solidarity. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to hand over to Mark now to sum up in terms of any closing remarks or any messages, Mark, that you want to leave people with before we end the meeting.
Only this, that everyone who's on this call and everybody's colleagues who's not on, but at work, I think we all agree on absolutely one thing. We must have more money, we must have job security, and we have to start being treated properly. In that, we're not alone. There are at the moment unions representing over 1 million people who are balloting or have balloted. And the government are facing the biggest bout of resistance to their plans that we have seen in this country for a generation. It is in our interest that every one of those unions is successful, but what is in our direct interest is to ensure that if the government is forced to make concessions, that they're making as many concessions to us as anywhere else, which is why when we call action, we have to make sure that it is as successful as possible. We keep it under review. We keep calling out areas where members and reps are telling us we can have a real effect, we need to come out next. And we also make sure that, because we know when people go on strike, it is hard if it's unpaid strike action, that when the action is called, as hard as it is, everyone coming out will be a way of showing the government that we are really not going to go away. Now, what has come across tonight, Fran, is obviously some individual members in some individual areas either wish they were on strike already or are worried about what their employer is going to say. And all I think we can say at this point is, look, we completely understand that. We know that all the employers are worrying. It's not often the government sets up a specific unit to deal with strikes, and in the civil service mirrors that to look at what it's doing in the civil service itself. I mean, they are the government. We are a union of 190,000 people. They've got a lot at their disposal, and we've got each other. If we could land a single knockout blow, we would. I think what we know is we can win, but it will have to be by a series of, as my cat just getting in the way, it will have to be through a series of escalating action that hits them harder and harder and harder. So I'm urging people who are disappointed at this point that it's not them, to stick with the union, show solidarity to your colleagues, and put in further submissions and ideas if we think is a more effective way of building on what we are actually doing. And so with all of that, my view is all the signs are the DVSA and the RPA strikes are going to be incredibly well supported. Some really big picket lines. It's going to get us off to a brilliant start. We think that that can be repeated in our DWP offices, in highways, and in the border force over Christmas. And when we get back in January, what we'll be doing is meeting again, having had a fantastic start, lots of publicity and lots of problems for the management. Then we will announce the next wave of action, including any all-out action, hopefully with other unions, Fran. So it's going to build and build and build. This is the beginning. The employers are clearly worried about it. But what they want now more than anything is division in our ranks. That is what they will thrive on, and that's what they will try to manipulate however they do it. And I think our answer has to be to that is that it's the union that keeps us together, whether in a large employer or small, whether we're on strike this time or not. And by us sticking together, actually we can cause them more problems than they ever have had before. The minute they get that message, hopefully they'll realize they need to put some money on the table. And the very last thing to say is, if anyone thinks, well, they won't do that because we're the civil service, I can tell you the more people you talk to, the more people are just amazed that we're on 2% when everybody else is going on strike, having been offered 5%. And therefore there is plenty of scope for the government to do more for us if they want to. We've got to force them to. So solidarity to the strikers and reps tomorrow, to everybody else, the people in the next wave, and let's make sure this gets off to a flying start. And then when we next get together at the beginning of 2023, it's from a really strong beginning to build the pressure even further. Thanks, Fran.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, and final word from Angela Grant here, who's a National Executive Committee member. Don't forget, if there are non-members covered by the strike at your workplace that are about to cross the picket line, you can always ask them to join PCS immediately so that they don't have to cross. Solidarity to everybody already on strike and all those about to take action. So I think that's a good note to end the meeting on. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. I appreciate people probably had a long day, and then this comes in the evening, but it's well worth it in terms of keeping each other up to date with what's happening. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us. As always, I want to thank our speakers, but also our interpreter, Richard, who does a sterling job under quite difficult circumstances sometimes in terms of all the speaking that he has to keep up with. So thank you very much. It's just gone 7 o'clock. We've done pretty well in sticking to time. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Keep in touch. Show your solidarity to all of the strikers. And if you're taking strike action, solidarity to you and best wishes for a successful outcome. Thank you very much. Take care. Good night.